The Amazing Bulk, 2012. Okay, we're off to a good start. Let's start with the crown jewel of bootleg superhero cinema, The Amazing Bulk. Imagine Marvel's Incredible Hulk, but instead of a $150 million budget, you get $14,000. Yep, director Louis Schonbrun, yeah, he managed to scrape together a feature-length superhero parody with basically no money. And obviously, the results are hilarious. Every scene looked like it was shot against a green screen because it was. The city streets, the explosions, even the park bench. They're all stock images and free 3D assets from the internet. The Purple Hulk himself looks like he escaped from a PlayStation 1 cutscene and works for McDonald's. I'm just kidding. Sorry. So why it was made? Schonbrun wanted to prove he could make a full film using entirely digital backgrounds. What he accidentally created was a meme factory. Critics destroyed it, but YouTubers and the internet forums elevated it into cult status. People watched it ironically the same way you'd watch The Room.
Did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
And honestly, for $14,000, this movie has outlived most forgettable blockbusters.
Like I said, they always come back to the scene of the crime.
We're gonna have to take you down to the station.
I don't think that'd be a good idea.
You don't want to do that.
Well, it ain't Barney the Purple Dinosaur.
Almighty Thor, 2011. If you've ever rented a DVD thinking it was Marvel's Thor, there's a good chance you got tricked by this one. It was made by The Asylum, the studio famous for mockbusters, like cheap movies released the same week as big Hollywood blockbusters, hoping confused parents or curious fans would pick them up. The film came out on Sci-Fi Channel the exact weekend Marvel's Thor hit theaters. But instead of Chris Hemsworth and Asgardian spectacle, you get cardboard sets, toy hammers, and Richard Grieco from 21 Jump Street playing Loki. The budget? Well, it's about $200,000, and compared to Marvel's $150 million, of course, you've guessed it, this is how it looks. It never hit theaters, it was designed for TV and DVD sales. And that's the Asylum strategy. Make it cheap, release it fast, and let the confusion do the marketing. Avengers Grim, 2015. The Asylum wasn't done. They doubled down with Avengers Grim. As the name suggests, it's their answer to the Avengers. Except instead of Iron Man and Hulk, you get Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and Red Riding Hood teaming up as superheroes. And their villain? It's Rumpelstiltskin. This mashup cost maybe a few $100,000 at most, but the premise was ambitious. A full superhero team-up using fairy tale princesses. They even cast Lou Ferrigno, the original Incredible Hulk, to add some credibility.
What's that name they call you?
I'm Iron John.
Of course, the final product was a mess. Awful CGI, bad acting, incoherent story, but the Asylum released it straight to DVD and later on Netflix, right when Avengers Age of Ultron was dominating the theaters. I guess it's bootleg brilliance. You won't mistake it for Marvel, but it's so shameless you almost respect it. Guardians, 2017. Not all bootleg superheroes come from the Asylum. In 2017, Russia tried to make its own Avengers with Guardians. The idea was to create a team of Soviet superheroes, each representing different parts of the USSR. The lineup included a bear man with a machine gun, a speedster, a female telekinetic, and a ninja who could disappear. The budget was a shocking $5.4 million, which, while small for Hollywood, it was massive for Russian cinema. The movie had hype, trailers that went viral worldwide, and big ambitions too. But the final product was a disaster. The CGI looked unfinished, the story was incoherent, and audiences laughed at it rather than with it. At the box office, Guardians only made about $15 million worldwide. Well, it sounds fine until you factor in distribution cuts and marketing. The studio behind it, Enjoy Movies, went bankrupt shortly after. So instead of being Russia's Avengers, it became just a meme. Sinister Squad, 2000 2016. So Asylum struck again with Sinister Squad. If you guessed this was the ripoff of Suicide Squad, you'd be right. But instead of Harley Quinn and Deadshot, you get fairy tale villains like the Big Bad Wolf, the Queen of Hearts, and Rumpelstiltskin teaming up to save the world. I can't find any official budget, but given its Asylum's formula, it was probably under $500,000. It went straight to DVD as usual and streaming, marketed just as Suicide Squad hype was at its peak. Critics hated it, but it added to Asylum's weird shared universe of fairy tale superheroes.
Alright, big guy. Let's go.
Metalman, 2008. Back in 2008, Marvel was making history with Iron Man. And at the same time, a tiny indie film called Metalman decided to piggyback on its success. The story follows a college student who builds a robotic suit to fight evil. Sounds familiar?
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
So the problem? The suit looks like cardboard painted with chrome spray paint. The action scenes are laughable, and the acting is straight out of a high school play. No budget figures are publicly available, but the film clearly cost peanuts. It never reached theaters and mostly circulated in obscure DVD bins. But in a way, it's fascinating. It's proof of how fast filmmakers try to copy Marvel's formula, even before the MCU had fully taken off.
I know those men were You'll be dead before you even get to testify. We have to get you out of your file. We need to retrieve remaining program chips. After that, get the man responsible for this.
Captain Battle, Legacy War, 2013. If Captain America was Marvel's patriotic hero, then Captain Battle was the budget-bin version. Released in 2013, this film stars a forgotten pulp superhero from the 1940s called Captain Battle. It tries to reimagine him as America's answer to Captain America, fighting Nazis and modern terrorists. But the problem? Cheap costumes, poor fight choreography, and no star power. With little distribution and almost no press coverage, the film came and went without anyone noticing, but it exists. Another attempt to ride Marvel's wave. Thor, The End of Days. At first glance, you might think this was another Asylum mockbuster, but it actually wasn't. This one was written and directed by Thomas Shapiro, and it was released by smaller distributors like Invincible Pictures and Ford Digital. Some platform listed as a 2015 production, though it officially hit VOD in April 2020 and DVD in August 2020. The movie reimagines Thor in a modern apocalyptic setting, where he's sent to Earth to battle giants and stop Ragnarok. It sounds epic on paper, but the execution is exactly what you'd expect from a $1.5 million low-budget production. The CGI monsters look unfinished, the action feels stiff, and the entire film plays like a fan project that somehow made it to home video shelves. Unlike Almighty Thor, this wasn't designed to premiere on Sci-Fi or hit Netflix during Marvel's hype. It was more of a direct-to-DVD curiosity, clearly marketed to cash in on audiences searching for Thor content. And while Marvel's Thor Ragnarok blew up at the box office in 2017, Thor End of Days faded quickly into obscurity, remembered only as another attempt to weaponize Norse mythology for quick sale. Ratatoing, 2007. This was made in Brazil by Video Brinquedo, a studio infamous for churning out copycats. Released just a year after Pixar's Ratatouille, it features Marcel Tuing, a rat chef who sneaks into restaurants to steal ingredients for his dishes. Instead of heartfelt storytelling about following your dreams, the movie basically says, if you can't cook, just steal it. The budget was practically non-existent, and it shows. Stiff animation, recycled textures, and sound design that feels like it was ripped from free software. It made money the same way all these knockoffs do. Cheap DVDs that trick parents looking for the rat cooking movie. It's more or less like a film and more like a scam, but in cartoon form.
It's turning out to be some night tonight, huh, Marcel?
Yeah, you're right. So far tonight, I've been asked to make 12 olive creams and soda.
So, is it ready?
Well, almost. Tell me, has the party at Table 4 decided their order?
Yes, he ordered tonight's special, the larva pie.
Carol, why didn't you tell me sooner?
The Little Panda Fighter, 2008. So another gem in Brazil. I guess it's really infamous there to make knockoffs. So the Little Panda Fighter, clearly riding the hype of DreamWorks Kung Fu Panda. This one swaps martial arts for pro wrestling. The panda, Pandaka, doesn't want to fight at all. He just wants to be a dancer. But his boss forces him into the wrestling ring anyway. So the result was a movie that has almost no action, painfully slow pacing, and some of the laziest animation you'll ever see. The whole thing feels like someone made it over a long weekend. Obviously, no official box office exists because it never went to the theaters. Again, just as always, just straight to DVD to trick the parents.
And in this corner, we have the current reigning and undisputed national heavyweight champ himself, weighing in at, hey kid, you're not on one of those shake diets, are ya?
He'll be shaking tonight.
A Car's Life, 2006. This sounds like Cars plus Bugs Life together. So if Pixar gave us Cars, Sparkplug Entertainment gave us A Car's Life. This was released in 2006, just weeks before Cars. It follows a red car named Sparky, who dreams of racing. Sounds familiar, right? Only here the animation is so stiff, it looks like an early PlayStation cutscene. The characters have lifeless eyes and clunky movements, with a story that feels like a faded photocopy of Pixar's script. And similar to the first two knockoffs I mentioned, it never hit theaters, but it became a staple in dollar stores, designed purely to confuse parents who thought they were buying cars on DVD.
Your bumper's fine, it's your brains I'm worried about. Stop doing that.
What?
Anything. Just get behind me and drive like a normal car.
Boring.
Sparky, when are you gonna grow up?
I am grown up.
No, you're not.
Well, I'm not a baby, and I'm not you.
What's up? Balloon to the Rescue, 2009. So one of the most infamous ripoffs is What's Up, Balloon to the Rescue. Yet again, by guess what? Video Brinquedo, released right after Pixar's Up. It copies the same core idea, balloons lifting a house. Only instead of a heart and soul, we get blocky, plastic-looking characters with barely any lip syncing.
Which is the up button?
This arrow right on the top.
Which one? This one here? Oh!
Really cool!
Houses aren't aerodynamic. Even so, the hyperlight jet can still be very unstable.
The old man is replaced with the mad scientist, and instead of a touching adventure, it's just random nonsense stitched together. Critics slammed it as one of the worst animated films ever made, but the studio still cashed in from clueless DVD buyers. I guess that's how they make money, making money from confused parents. Leo the Lion, 2005. Before Madagascar and the Lion King knockoffs, there was Leo the Lion. Differently now, in Italy, not in Brazil. This film features a vegetarian lion who refuses to eat meat.
Unlike the other cubs within his pride, was a vegetarian. He preferred to eat grass rather than hunt like the others.
It's meant to teach kids about kindness and non-violence, but the execution is so poor, it's unintentionally hilarious. The backgrounds repeat constantly, the characters float oddly, and the voice acting feels like it was recorded in someone's closet. Hopefully not mine.
Please, I need you to hurry and get me to Beatrice, the elephant doctor.
Well, now, of course, I don't know. It poses a few logistical problems.
Oh, please, Leo. I'm so frightened here.
Financial details are murky, but it was clearly made on the cheap and targeted at international DVD markets desperate for family content. Kiara the Brave, 2011. This one is sneaky. Kiara the Brave came out the same year as Pixar's Brave. But here's the kicker. The movie had nothing to do with Scottish princesses, archery, or even bravery. Instead, it's an unrelated Indian animated film that was retitled to ride Pixar's marketing wave. Distributors slapped on misleading posters, making it look like a Brave spin-off. Parents rented it thinking it was connected to Merida's story, only to discover a totally unrelated, low-quality fantasy adventure. It's less of a movie. It's more of a marketing con.
There you are. I came to tell your father about some bad elements planning to harm our world.
They came here. Don't know who they were. The royal clouds were unable to protect us.
The Snow Queen, 2012. This one took confusion to another level. Before Disney released Frozen, Russian studio Wizard Animation had already adapted Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. When Disney's Frozen became a cultural phenomenon, distributors rebranded The Snow Queen under titles like Frozen Land to trick parents. Dude, even the poster is so similar. The animation was serviceable but nowhere near Disney's level, and critics quickly labeled it a cash-in. It did get sequels, but its real financial gain came from piggybacking on Disney's juggernaut.
Huh? What was that?
It looks like a royal hunt!
Little B. 2007, a shameless clone of DreamWorks' Bee Movie. It follows the exact same idea, a plucky bee going on human-like adventures. Only this time, the animation looks like a rejected Saturday morning cartoon, released straight to DVD. It never made any money but managed to circulate internationally in bargain bins. It's one of those films so low effort, you wonder if the creators even cared, or if the entire goal was to rush something out while Bee Movie buzzed in theaters.
You're such a drama queen. So, you like the chef?
No!
Yeah, well, he's gonna make one lousy batch of honey after the other, right? Then he'll force you to eat that sludge and cook it too, unless you help me out.
Chop Kick Panda. 2011. Released the same year as Kung Fu Panda 2, this knockoff came from the US. Distributor Phase 4 Films, a company notorious for cheap mockbusters. The story follows a panda named Zebo, who is of course a martial arts master destined to save the world. But unlike DreamWorks' polished animation and heartfelt comedy, Chop Kick Panda runs under an hour and looks like a Saturday morning cartoon from the 90s. It was rushed to DVD shelves specifically to catch parents looking for the Kung Fu Panda sequel. The trick even fooled enough Redbox renters to make it a minor success in the bargain bin economy.
Surrender, my inferior foe, my inadequate adversary, my measly menace, or perish at my hands. I will never surrender.
The Autobots. 2015. Nope. It's not the Transformers. This one is legendary because it was produced in China. The Autobots blatantly rips off Pixar's Cars. The poster and DVD cover were almost identical to Pixar's designs, with characters that look like Lightning McQueen's long-lost cousins. Disney and Pixar even sued the studio for copyright infringement. That's how shameless it was. Unlike some of the earlier Brazilian knockoffs, the Autobots actually made international headlines for being a copy so close it became a legal issue. The movie itself, well, it's a confusing, low-quality mess with stilted animation and zero charm. But it stands as one of the most infamous cases of animated plagiarism in history. Avenging Force, the Scarab, 2010. The story follows an archaeologist who comes across a mystical scarab stone, granting him superhero powers. What actually ended up on screen is closer to a poorly filmed high school play. The sound and picture quality are atrocious, the script is painfully dull, and the actors look like they're reading lines from cue cards just off camera.
Your marksmanship is top-notch. Your surveillance and hand-to-hand combat techniques put you in the top 5% of your class. What it comes down to, Rose, is that you're getting a promotion.
Field work, sir?
Fight scenes look unrehearsed and awkward, and punches that miss by a mile and kicks that barely grace the villain. Costumes are no better. The Scarab himself looks like the Michael Keaton Batman meme. The film even uses a mattress factory as its final battle location. The climactic showdown between heroes and villains takes place in the same place you buy a bed. Fans of the original Golden Age comic heroes were furious, calling it one of the worst adaptations ever made. The only halfway decent thing about this film, I think the DVD cover, which looks way better than the movie it's selling. Rise of the Black Bat. 2012. If The Dark Knight Rises was one of the biggest superhero films of the decade, then Rise of the Black Bat was the low-budget shadow trailing behind it. Is it even a shadow? Because the title itself is a scam, designed to confuse grandparents buying DVDs for their grandkids or even moms. But this isn't a Batman story. It follows a prosecutor blinded by acid, who gains special bat-like senses and becomes a masked vigilante. That's basically Daredevil with a cape. Here's the irony though, the Black Bat was an actual pulp hero from the 1930s, created around the same time as Batman. In fact, some historians argue Batman may have borrowed from Black Bat, not the other way around. Ooh, this is interesting. But by 2012, nobody remembered that. So instead of reviving a historic character with care, the filmmakers slapped together a straight-to-DVD cheapie meant to cash in on Nolan's success.
My name is Anthony Quinn, and I'm the district attorney of this city. My friends call me Tony, but there are some people in this city, mostly disreputable people, that know me by another name.
I'm Batman.
Thunderstorm, The Return of Thor, 2011. Oh boy, we have another Thor entry here, guys. Marvel's Thor brought Norse mythology to life with sweeping action and high-budget spectacle. In this movie, Thor isn't a god. He's just a regular guy who somehow gets access to a sci-fi battle suit and a hammer that looks suspiciously like an electric rod. Later in the film, he's randomly imbued with the real Thor's power and renames himself Thunderstorm. If that sounds confusing, well, because it is. And the villain of the film, Hel, spelled without an A. Instead of Hela, Hell. A clear attempt to rip off Marvel's Hela from Norse mythology while avoiding lawsuits. The movie even teases an apocalypse event similar to Ragnarok, but with none of the drama or scale. Instead, you get shaky camp fights in back alleys and forests that look like they were filmed behind someone's house. This wasn't just a bad knockoff, it was part of a larger trend. Companies like The Asylum cranked out these mockbusters to trick casual buyers into thinking they were picking up the real Thor film.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm more than a little freaked out right now.
Fear not, the gods are with you.
Yeah, I wish that helped. Yeah, why don't you just come down here and take care of this? Why me?
It is forbidden.
Italian Spider-Man, 2008. This is something different. Italian Spider-Man isn't really a knockoff, it's more of a parody. Just thought might include it in the list. This was produced not in Italy, in Australia. It's a loving spoof of cheesy 60s and 70s Italian action films with a superhero twist. This version of Spider-Man has little in common with the Marvel hero besides the name. Instead, he's a chain-smoking, mustached anti-hero who drinks, fights, and casually pulls off ridiculous feats of power. His mission: protect a magical asteroid from the evil Captain Maximum, and his powers: growing to giant size, surfing on waves, summoning penguins, and poisoning enemies with his venomous bites. The film deliberately looks cheap, with over-the-top fight scenes while editing in a deliberately nonsensical plot. While it's technically not a shameless cash grab, its roots in the tradition of foreign knockoffs like Japan's Spider-Man TV show earned it a place in this list. The Black Knight returns, 2009. Few superhero characters are more iconic than Batman, and that's exactly why knockoff artists can't resist stealing from him. That's why The Black Knight Returns was made. The film mashes together elements from Frank Miller's legendary comic The Dark Knight Returns, Tim Burton's Batman Returns, and Nolan's Dark Knight, all while changing just enough to avoid lawsuits. Instead of Bruce Wayne, the hero is Evan Grail, whose parents are murdered by a villain named Simon Darth. He then joins a secret order of warriors, dons medieval-inspired armor, and becomes the Black Knight. In other words, it's Batman with swords and knight cosplay. The movie tries to build a gritty mythology but looks more like a fan film stretched past its limits. Cheap sets, dull action, and a script that feels like a first draft make this one of the most forgettable bootlegs on the list.
Must be. You know, you're a good soldier. I'd ask you to join our side, but probably not your style, huh?
Killing innocent people? No, not really.
Wow. 3 Dev Adam, 1973. If you thought things couldn't get stranger, welcome to Turkey. 3 Dev Adam, also known as 3 Giant Men, is one of the most infamous superhero bootlegs of all time. Here, Spider-Man is the villain. Not just mischievous, but a full-on sadistic mob boss running scams and murder across Istanbul. To stop him, Captain America teams up with Mexican wrestling legend El Santo. Yes, Marvel's poster boy side by side with a lucha libre hero battling a knife-wielding Spider-Man. This film is a product of Turkish cinema's Yeşilçam era. It's famous for its bootleg versions of Hollywood blockbusters. From Turkish Star Wars to Turkish Rambo, nothing was off limits. And while 3 Dev Adam looks like it was filmed from the price of a used car, it becomes a cult classic thanks to its sheer audacity. Avengers of Justice, Farce Wars 2018. If you've ever wondered what happens when a parody goes completely wrong, this is your answer. The film attempts to spoof both Avengers and Star Wars at the same time. Our hero is Superbat, an overweight mashup of Superman and Batman who must come out of retirement to fight Dark Jokester. My goodness. He's joined by a team of knockoff heroes, including Shawn Michaels, painted green and doing yoga with elf ears. Shawn freaking Michaels.
Oh, God!
Namaste. You must trust the Farce.
Not really feeling much farce right now.
Whoa!
And this is in 2018. The dialogue is painful, with outdated jokes about MySpace and pop culture references that were old even in 2010. The special effects look like they were done on a laptop from the early 2000s. And even the cast, which includes Amy Smart and Simon Rex, look they'd rather be anywhere else. What makes it worse is that it came out in 2018, during the peak of Marvel cinema. Or I don't know, is it cinema? We should ask Martin Scorsese. So instead of being funny or clever, it feels like the world's longest bad YouTube sketch. And many call it one of the worst superhero parodies ever made. Antboy 2013. What if Spider-Man wasn't from New York but from Denmark and got his powers from an ant instead of a spider? That's the idea behind Antboy, a 2013 Danish superhero film. The story follows 12-year-old Pelle, who gains super strength and the ability to spray acid after being bitten by a genetically modified ant. Instead of facing Green Goblin or Doc Ock, his main villain is a leather-clad criminal called The Flea. On the surface, it's a clear Spider-Man knockoff. Same nerdy kid origin, same sudden powers, even the same awkward double life. But unlike most bootlegs, Antboy actually started as a Danish comic book series. And here's the twist. Despite its small budget and TV movie feel, the film was popular enough to get 2 sequels. It may look like Spider-Man's European cousin, but Antboy proves that even knockoffs can find their own little fan base.
Have mercy! Not today!
Transmorphers 2007. When Michael Bay's Transformers was gearing up to hit theaters, the Asylum quickly jumped in with Transmorphers, released straight to DVD just weeks before the real deal. The movie tried to trick audiences with a similar name. The story involves humans hiding underground after alien robots take over Earth, except the robots look like bad video game graphics. Wow. The acting is stiff at best. It reportedly cost under $1 million to make, a fraction of Transformers' massive $150 million budget. It did not play in theaters, but it earned its infamy in bargain bins and late-night streaming. Transmorphers. Can't believe Asylum spent $1 million for this. Snakes on a Train 2006. Remember the hype around Samuel L. Jackson's Snake on a Plane? Well, as always, the Asylum jumped at the chance to cash in, releasing Snakes on a Train the same year. The setup is exactly what it sounds like. Venomous snakes terrorize passengers, except the execution is laughable. The movie had a small budget that many of the snake attacks were just stock footage. The ending is legendary. A giant snake swallows the entire train. It did not make any serious money, but it became a cult bootleg because of how absurd it is. Atlantic Rim 2013. Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim featured stunning visuals of robots fighting sea monsters, or kaijus. Atlantic Rim, on the other hand, featured clunky CGI robots fighting creatures that look like rejected PlayStation 2 monsters. Made for less than $1 million compared to Pacific Rim's $200 million budget, the movie was rushed out by the Asylum to full DVD and digital buyers, as always. That's the gimmick. It was so blatant that Warner Brothers actually sued the Asylum for trademark infringement. Today, it lives on as one of the most infamous copycats in Hollywood.
I don't like where this is going.
Paranormal Entity. 2009. When Paranormal Activity terrified audiences with its tiny budget and massive box office success, of course, the Asylum saw dollar signs. And they quickly churned out Paranormal Entity, another found footage ghost story. This was shot for pennies. It tried to mimic the documentary-style scares, but instead delivered wooden performances and predictable jump scares. Unlike Paranormal Activity, which earned nearly $200 million worldwide, Paranormal Entity went straight to DVD and was mostly rented by people who confused the two titles. The Da Vinci Treasure. 2006. When Ron Howard's The Da Vinci Code hit theaters with Tom Hanks, the Asylum responded with The Da Vinci Treasure. Instead of following a symbologist uncovering secrets of the church, this film featured a treasure hunter stumbling through historical puzzles. It starred C. Thomas Howell, but the acting, dialogue, and plot twists were nowhere near the quality of the blockbuster.
The Da Vinci Treasure.
I told you I'd be here for the payoff.
The film was made on a shoestring budget, barely marketed, and as always existed almost entirely to ride the wave of the Da Vinci Code's success. The Day the Earth Stopped. 2008. In 2008, Fox released a big-budget remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, with Keanu Reeves. Naturally, of course, the Asylum jumped in with The Day the Earth Stopped. In the story, hundreds of giant robots appear around the globe, threatening humanity. The problem? The robots look like cut-and-paste CGI, and the film's dramatic tension falls completely flat. Made on an estimated budget of less than $1 million, it was nowhere near the $80 million production value of its inspiration, Skull. 2008. When Disney's High School Musical phenomenon was at its peak, the Asylum tried to jump on the bandwagon with Sunday School Musical. Instead of high school teens singing about basketball and love, this version had a group of church kids trying to save their youth group through music. With awkward choreography, uninspired songs, and performances that felt more like a church skit than a movie, it became a bootleg no one wanted. It never reached mainstream box office success and remains a forgotten yet hilarious example of Hollywood knockoffs.
Wait. No. Well, when you crack it like that, you get the shell in the batter. So you just tap it, and it opens.
Thanks, boss.
Okay, well, if you think you can do it better, then you take over, boss.
Titanic 2. 2010. Yes, you heard that right. Titanic 2, guys. This movie imagined a modern luxury cruise ship named Titanic 2, setting sail on the 100th anniversary of the original disaster, only for history to repeat itself. How ironic. With icebergs, panic, and bad CGI flooding sequences, the film became instantly infamous. Produced on a budget of about $500,000, it was released straight to DVD. Compared to James Cameron's Titanic, which earned over $2 billion, by the way, Titanic 2 probably earned $200, maybe more. It's so absurd that it developed a cult following online though. So, still, props to the Asylum. The Terminators. 2009. When James Cameron's Terminator franchise was still dominating pop culture, the Asylum thought, why not make their own? Enter The Terminators, a direct-to-DVD mockbuster that tried to cash in on the hype of Terminator Salvation in 2009. The story follows an army of cyborgs, literally called TR-4s, who rebel against humanity. Sounds familiar, right? But the problem is, instead of sleek machines, the cyborgs look like men in rubber suits and cheap sunglasses. The budget was reportedly around a few $100s, and it shows. Shaky sets, bargain bin CGI explosions, and awkward acting. It never made a splash at the box office because it went straight to DVD, mostly finding life in bargain bins and late night cable.
Go, go, go!
Hey, come on!
Triassic World 2018. So by 2018, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was raking over $1 billion at the box office. At the exact same time, the Asylum decided audiences might also want Triassic World. This mockbuster imagines scientists cloning dinosaurs not for theme parks, but to harvest their organs for medical transplants. They're using dinosaurs as organ donors. Naturally, of course, the dinos escape and chaos ensues. It was made under $1 million. And the film features dinosaurs that look like plastic toys animated with early 2000s CGI. The acting is wooden, the science is laughable, and the premise alone makes it one of the strangest bootlegs ever made.
Just relax. Good, relax. That's alright, you did enough damage today, okay? Stay. Good. That's it. Steady, girl.
Star Crash 1978. This was made in Italy. If Star Wars was epic space mythology, Star Crash was the wild fever dream version. Directed by Luigi Cozzi, or Cozzi, it stars Carolyn Monroe as outlaw smuggler Stella Star, who gets tangled in a war against Count Zarth Arn and his planet-destroying weapon. That's very, very familiar. Along the way, she teams up with robots, alien prisoners, and even a young David Hasselhoff, wielding a glowing sword. With a budget of around $4 million, it only made $2 million in the US, but gained cult status on VHS for its bizarre costumes, psychedelic visuals, and shameless copycat energy. To this day, it's remembered as that movie where David Hasselhoff had a lightsaber. The Humanoid 1979. This was also made in Italy. Italy wasn't done cloning Star Wars, and this time they brought in James Bond's towering villain, Richard Kiel. The Humanoid follows a mad tyrant and his scientist ally who build an army of clones to conquer the galaxy, opposed by a band of heroes straight out of Lucas's playbook. With Jedi-like mentors, robot companions, and galactic battles, it checks every box, but with half the charm. Costing about $2 million, it never reached major box office success outside Italy. Instead, it became one of those European knockoffs remembered for its strange tone and cult appeal.
Really sharpened my desire to see you again.
It is very gratifying for me to know that I've been in your thoughts all this time. As you can see, you've been in mine as well. And all this work is to help you regain the power that is rightfully yours.
Message from Space 1978. This time, this was made in Japan. Japan's big swing at competing with George Lucas came from Toei Studios. Message from Space borrows the Rebel vs. Empire framework, complete with a princess, a planet enslaved, and a mystical glowing seeds that choose a group of reluctant heroes. Sonichiba adds star power, while the design mixes samurai flair with space opera. With a massive $6 million budget, the largest in Japan at the time, it disappointed abroad but was popular at home, even spawning a TV spin-off. Critics called it a mess, but visually it's one of the most ambitious Star Wars imitators, often dubbed as the Japanese Star Wars.
Do you know where Emerald is? You know where Emerald is? What are you doing? No! I'm a human being from the planet Earth!
I buried my career in orbit with Babel 1. I can't do it. And chosen by the gods.
Battle Beyond the Stars 1980. This was made in the USA. Ironically, Roger Corman, the king of cheap cinema, pulled out all the stops for this one. With a $2 million budget, his biggest ever, he created a mashup of Star Wars and the Seven Samurai. The story follows Shad, a young pilot who recruits a group of alien mercenaries to defend his planet from a galactic tyrant. Behind the camera, a young James Cameron worked on effects. James Horner scored the music, and the cast included Robert Vaughn and Sybil Danning. It grossed about $11 million, turning a profit and cementing itself as one of the most beloved space knockoffs ever made.
Try one. That's a hot dog. Here comes some earth. Do you like it?
There's no dog in this. Soybean meal, niacin, dextrose, and sodium nitrate flavoring.
That's what we call meat back home.
Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, 1983. This was also made in the US. So this one feels like Star Wars collided with Mad Max. It follows Wolf, a cynical pilot played by Peter Strauss, who is hired to rescue kidnapped women on a ravaged planet. Along the way, he picks up a teenage Molly Ringwald and faces off against Michael Ironside, a grotesque cyborg villain. Costing $14 million, it grossed only $16.5 million, barely scraping by financially. Critics dismissed it, but it became a VHS staple and a guilty pleasure for fans of 80s sci-fi weirdness.
McNabb! McNabb! You have done this to me!
I think you have me confused.
You and I were the only doctors in this galaxy, and they sent us to fight the
plagues, Grandman.
You betrayed me, McNabb!
Lensman, 1984. This is an anime made in Japan. Based on the pulp novels that inspired Lucas in the first place, Lensman feels like anime Star Wars. A young farm boy inherits a mythical lens from a dying warrior, joins the rebellion, and fights an evil empire with a super weapon. While visually striking, it leans so hard into A New Hope that it sparked legal disputes, and the author's estate banned future re-releases. The budget isn't well documented, but it underperformed in theaters. Today, it's remembered less for success and more as a fascinating case of Star Wars come full circle through anime. Starchaser: The Legend of Orin, 1985. This was also made in the US. Marketed as the first 3D animated feature, Starchaser was essentially Star Wars in cartoon form. It tells the story of Orin, a slave boy who discovers a hidden laser sword, escapes his overlords, and joins the smuggler pilot to rescue a princess and take down a galactic tyrant. With a $4 million budget, it didn't make a big theatrical splash but found life on home video and Saturday morning TV. Critics dismissed it as a blatant copy, but for many kids in the 80s, it was their animated gateway to sci-fi adventure.
We welcome you as an honored member of the Kakar. You are free to leave your human form and come with us.
Yes. Not yet. I'd like to stretch my legs for a few decades.
Turkish Star Wars, 1982. Obviously, this was made in Turkey. This list will not be complete without the most infamous knockoff ever, The Man Who Saved the World, better known as Turkish Star Wars. With almost no budget, the filmmakers literally stole space battle footage from A New Hope and spliced it into their own story of Turkish action star Cüneyt Arkın, karate kicking his way through alien villains and giant boulders. It also used stolen music from Raiders of the Lost Ark and Flash Gordon. It made no money on release, but decades later became a global cult hit for its sheer audacity. Often called the worst bootleg ever made, it was so bad that it became legendary. The Black Hole, 1979. Before The Empire Strikes Back, Disney took its own stab at a space epic with The Black Hole. Released just 2 years after A New Hope, it featured robots, laser battles, and a ragtag space crew caught near a mysterious cosmic vortex. The film was Disney's most expensive project at the time with a $20 million budget, featuring pioneering effects and an ambitious orchestral score by John Barry. While not a direct ripoff, it was clearly Disney's attempt to capture the Star Wars audience. It grossed around $36 million, but critics found its tone uneven, too dark for kids and too shallow for adults. Today, it's viewed as a strange atmospheric experiment that shows how even Disney tried to go Star Wars in the late 70s. Space Raiders, 1983. Produced by Roger Corman as a cheaper spiritual sequel to Battle Beyond the Stars, Space Raiders reuses much of that film's special effects footage. Literally the same ships, explosions, and laser battles. It follows a Han Solo-type smuggler who accidentally kidnaps a child during a raid and becomes his reluctant protector while being hunted across the galaxy. With a $2 million budget, it flopped theatrically but became a cult favorite on VHS and cable TV. Corman's strategy was simple: recycle Star Wars aesthetics, reuse Battle Beyond the Stars' visuals, and sell it as something new. So the result feels like a weird deja vu version of Lucas's universe. Cheaper, scrappier, but still oddly charming.
Space Raiders. The greatest adventure a kid ever had.
The Real Deal, 1988, India. Long before the internet turned it into a global meme, The Real Deal was simply a Hindi family drama about greed, morality, and family conflict. Nothing even remotely connected to the world of superheroes. But buried inside this melodramatic film is one of the most unintentionally iconic bootleg superhero moments ever shot. In the song Tu Mera Superman, Govinda suddenly appears dressed in a bright, obviously unlicensed Superman suit, while Kimi Katkar dances beside him wearing a Spider-Woman style costume. In 1980s Bollywood, musical fantasy sequences often ignored logic entirely, and costume borrowing was common because superhero IP wasn't enforced in India. The filmmakers weren't trying to make a superhero movie. They simply needed a flamboyant visual centerpiece for a love song. What they ended up creating, though, was a bizarre DC Marvel crossover decades before the real studios ever attempted one. That single dance number eventually resurfaced online, becoming so wildly shared that even James Gunn reposted it for fun, cementing The Real Deal as an accidental legend in the bootleg superhero universe. The Avengers in Niger, 2015, Nigeria. In 2015, local Nigerian filmmaker Man Hussein set out to produce something small, fun, and unmistakably Nigerian. A community-shot superhero parody called The Avengers in Niger. This wasn't a studio production, nor was it intended to compete with Marvel. It was a passion project, a homemade comedy short film with friends, local youth actors, and minimal resources. The film takes the idea of Marvel's Avengers and drops them straight into everyday Nigerian life. Costumes were stitched together from whatever materials the team could afford, and scenes were filmed in backyards, open fields, and neighborhood streets. The goal was simple: create something entertaining for local audiences and share it online and to small Nollywood pages. While it never played in theaters or aimed for the mainstream, its charm lies in how honestly it reinterprets the Avengers through Nigerian culture. Spider-Man, 1978, Japan. Japan's 1978 Spider-Man is a rare case where something is fully licensed yet feels like the wildest bootleg ever made. When Marvel partnered with Toei in the late 70s, they allowed the Japanese studio to reinvent Spider-Man entirely, with almost no restrictions. Toei happily accepted. Their vision follows Takuya Yamashiro, a motocross racer who gets his powers not from a radioactive spider, but from an alien from planet Spider. Instead of a troubled teenage photographer, he becomes a Tokatsu-style hero battling rubber-suited monsters. In the true Toei fashion, he pilots a massive transforming robot called Leopardon.
레오파르도 민족 킹이다. 젠지 레오파르도.
Which would eventually influence the creation of Super Sentai, the series that became Power Rangers. Toei even released a 24-minute theatrical special during their Toei Manga Matsuri Festival, making this technically a Spider-Man movie. The result is an officially sanctioned adaptation that looks nothing like Marvel's character, yet stands today as one of the most surreal and influential reinterpretations in superhero history. Superman, 1980, India. Just 2 years after Christopher Reeves' Superman swept the world, Indian filmmakers crafted their own version, but with a distinctly cultural twist. The 1980 Telugu film Superman, directed by V. Madhusudana Rao and starring N.T. Rama Rao, I'm sorry if I butchered the names, took the familiar Western superhero and reimagined him through Hindu mythology. Instead of Krypton, this Superman draws his power from Lord Hanuman, the revered deity symbolizing strength and devotion. By giving their superhero a divine blessing rather than an alien heritage, the filmmakers avoided copyright trouble and anchored the character in a framework instantly recognizable to local audiences. His costume costume too, replaced the iconic S with an H, and the story blended Indian melodrama, devotional themes, and action. This wasn't simply a remake, it was an act of localization. It shows how Indian cinema adopted Western superhero ideas but reshaped them into something spiritually and culturally familiar. Spider-Girl, 2016, Nigeria. Nollywood is known for producing films quickly, creatively, and with a focus on storytelling over spectacle, and Spider-Girl is a perfect example.
You will pay for all the crimes you've committed against humanity, especially against my Auntie Jane. You will pay!
Released through Nollywood's direct-to-video ecosystem and shared online in multiple parts, the film follows a girl who gains mysterious spider powers and becomes the unlikely hero of her community. The production used basic digital effects to create web attacks and wall-jumping abilities, and the costume clearly draws inspiration from Spider-Man without naming him. Its existence became widely known when international media outlets highlighted the movie's poster, a hilariously off-brand creation of Spider-Man imagery that was so blatant it became instantly meme-worthy. Even with its rough edges, Spider-Girl reflects the inventive spirit of Nollywood, taking a globally recognized idea and rebuilding it using local talent, low-budget ingenuity, and pure enthusiasm. Three Giant Men, 1973, Turkey. Fewer superhero bootlegs are as infamous as Turkey's Three Giant Men, released in 1973. At a time when Turkey frequently produced unauthorized remakes due to lax copyright enforcement. Filmmakers T. Fikret Ushak, again, I'm sorry, decided to assemble an unlikely trio. Captain America, the Mexican wrestling icon El Santo, and a murderous version of Spider-Man. In this film, Spider-Man is not a hero. He's a violent criminal mastermind who leads a counterfeiting gang and terrorizes Istanbul with ruthless aggression. Captain America and El Santo are brought in to stop him, resulting in chaotic fight scenes, improvised costumes, and an overall tone that feels like a fever dream adaptation of Western superheroes. Despite, or perhaps because of its unlicensed nature, Three Giant Men has become a cult classic in global film culture. It stands as one of the clearest examples of how foreign filmmakers freely remixed American pop culture before modern licensing standards took hold. The Return of Superman, 1979, Turkey. Turkey's fascination with unlicensed superhero cinema continued with Superman. Just look at the screen, I don't know how to say it, I'm sorry. Released in 1979, the film is a direct, unauthorized remake of the 1978 Christopher Reeve movie, but recreated using Turkish actors, Turkish cities, and extremely limited resources. Director Kun Tulgur followed the broad beats of the Reeve film. A baby arrives on Earth in a rocket, grows up discovering his powers, takes a job as a journalist, and battles local criminals.
Planlarım burada biter. Bundan sonra yapacağın planları hapiste tasarlarsın. Sen öyle zannet. Bütün belalardan kurtuldun ama...
But everything, from the flying sequences to the costume to the Krypton-inspired visuals, had to be recreated using practical effects, wire rigs, simple sets, and whatever materials the filmmakers could gather. The result is a film that mirrors the original while looking nothing like it. Its low-budget aesthetics, earnest performances, and improvised visual effects have made it a cult favorite among fans of bizarre international remakes. Superman, 1987, India. India returned to the Man of Steel once again in 1987 with director B. Gupta's Hindi adaptation, simply titled Superman. Starring Punit Izar. The film openly follows the structure of the 1978 American Superman movie. This is one of the most direct, unofficial remakes ever produced in India, and the similarities are unmistakable. Much like the Telugu version, this film reconstructs iconic sequences from the Reeve classic, from the hero's childhood discovery of his powers to his transformation into a costumed savior. But because it was made without any official licensing, the production relied on extremely low-budget effects, hand-built costumes, and inventive approximations of Hollywood moments. This Hindi Superman is widely remembered for its ambitious attempt to recreate a blockbuster with a fraction of the resources. It stands as a fascinating artifact of Indian cinema's unofficial superhero era, a time when Western stories were copied not out of malice, but out of admiration and creative enthusiasm. Ben 7, 2009. Ben 7 is easily one of the most chaotic Ben 10 ripoffs ever made. It's an Indonesian live-action series that released filmed 85 episodes in 5 months, and everything in it feels completely improvised. Instead of an alien watch, Ben gets his powers by accidentally releasing 7 ghost warriors from a cursed book, and they possess him to become his transformations. The forms look like dollar store versions of Heat Blast, XLR8, Hawkman, and random creatures like Catfish Human and Ball Human. And despite having 7 options, Ben mostly just uses Fire Human, even when it makes the situation worse. As the show goes on, it stops pretending entirely. Ben suddenly gets Iron Man powers, teams up with Power Rangers, fights CGI helicopters, and transforms into anything the studio had a costume for that week.
Daripada kamu udah sombong, lagu, cerewet.
Ya. Begitu sih, aduh.
It's short, bizarre, and it's chaos. And somehow, that's exactly why Ben 7 became unforgettable. Let me know in the comments if you're familiar with this series. Dragon Ball: The Magic Begins, 1991. Before Hollywood butchered Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Evolution, Taiwan already attempted an unofficial live-action adaptation. And the crazy part, this bootleg feels more loyal than the official one. Dragon Ball: The Magic Begins openly steals the early manga storyline, the hunt for the Dragon Balls, the quirky road trip adventure, the slapstick martial arts, but renames everything to avoid lawsuits. Goku becomes Monkey Boy. Bulma becomes a knockoff adventurer, and the villain King Horn is basically Emperor Pilaf's aggressive cousin. Filmed in the forests of Taiwan and Thailand, the movie uses handmade props, explosive wire fu, and costumes that look like they were rented from a school play. And yet, it captures the original's goofy, innocent charm surprisingly well. It's silly, it's unlicensed, and it's technically illegal.
I don't care about my own life, but this pearl is very important. We can't lose it.
Grandpa, tell me what's going on. Why do you suddenly talk like this? I won't let anyone hurt you, and I'll safeguard the pearl.
But it embraces the childlike spirit of early Dragon Ball in a way many official adaptations failed to do. The Samsonidis, 2009. It's Simpsons, but in Georgia. And rendered in disturbing early 2000s 3D animation. The Samsonidis is one of the most blatant cartoon ripoffs ever aired on television. It's The Simpsons, but uncomfortably shiny and stiff like a PS1 cutscene. The animation is hilariously awkward, jittery lip sync, rigid movements, and character designs that look like they're one patch update away from horror. And yet, the show was hugely popular in Georgia. Why? Because it wasn't just a bootleg, it was a political cartoon. It constantly mocked corruption, social issues, and especially Russia.
არ მოგეწონეთ?
პირიქით, ძალიან მომეწონეთ. თქვენ დამტკიცებული ხართ კეთოს როლზე. ბრედ არან პიტი.
It once featured caricatures of Russian leaders, which sparked enough controversy to put the show on the international map. But when asked about ripping off The Simpsons, the creator insisted, this is not The Simpsons. This is the Samsonidis. Samsonidis. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to pronounce. Metallic Attraction. Kung Fu Cyborg, 2009. Kung Fu Transformers, in short. If you ever watched Transformers and thought, this needs more romance and kung fu, then Hong Kong's Metallic Attraction Kung Fu Cyborg is exactly that fever dream. The film follows Dai Ming, a government-built cyborg sent to a small town to learn how to be human. There, a woman falls in love with him while robotic assassins terrorize the countryside. The robot designs look suspiciously like Michael Bay's Transformers. But the tone is part rom-com, part martial arts film, and part sci-fi chaos. It's a genre smoothie. None of it blends. But you can't stop drinking it, I guess, when you watch it. Despite the madness, the movie has surprising heart. The kung fu choreography is genuinely fun, the CGI is ambitious for its time, and the story leans into philosophical questions about identity. It's a Transformers bootleg with feelings, which, ironically, gives it more emotional depth than some actual Transformer movies. Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island, 2005. Coconut Fred, SpongeBob's evil twin. Fruit Salad Island is one of the most infamous cartoon coincidences ever broadcast by Kids' Warner Brothers, not Nickelodeon, WB. It's the story about Coconut Fred, a hyperactive coconut whose personality is basically what if SpongeBob drank 7 energy drinks.
This isn't just an ordinary wad of paper. It's a special paper.
Fred is joined by Slip and Slide, two Patrick-like banana brothers. Bingo, the timid plankton parallel, and Mr. Mel, a watermelon boss who is basically Mr. Krabs without the money addiction.
Fred, please don't tell me that you want to be a lifeguard.
Well,
The similarities were so obvious that SpongeBob fans absolutely hated Coconut Fred. The character became a symbol of everything wrong with trying to copy a global hit. Loud, annoying, and painfully forced. Yet the show also had a weird charm. A warm, cozy island setting, silly character dynamics, and a cast of surprisingly talented voice actors, including Rob Paulsen and Eric Boza. It only lasted 13 episodes. But in internet history, Coconut Fred remains a legendary example of we have SpongeBob at home. Yongari, Monster from the Deep, 1967. Most Godzilla knockoffs crash and burn, but South Korea's Yongari, surprisingly, it's not that bad. Released in 1967, Yongari was Korea's attempt to enter the monster movie boom that Japan had sparked. And unlike many ripoffs, this one actually had budget, craftsmanship, and help from Japan's Toei Studios.
The mysterious moving earthquake has been identified as being caused by a gigantic reptile. This monster Yongari has already been responsible for several deaths and great damages.
The miniature cities look great, the creature's suit is expressive, and the action mirrors the goofy but fun style of mid-era Godzilla films. Yongari is essentially discount Godzilla, bipedal, radioactive, destructive, but he has a few unique touches like an elongated snout and permanently shocked eyes that make him look like he just remembered he left the stove on. It's campy, it's shameless, but it's also oddly charming. Among kaiju clones, Yongari is one of the best made, proving that even ripoffs can have personality. Robo Vampire, 1988. Oh man, this one is legendary. Directed by Godfrey Ho, the master king of stitched together films, Robo Vampire is a Frankenstein of unfinished footage, vampire monsters, robotic suits, hopping Jiangxi zombies, a ghost woman seeking revenge for her undead boyfriend, and a RoboCop knockoff who looks like a piñata version of the real thing.
Drop your weapons in 15 seconds. 15, 14, 13, 12.
It's just pure cinematic chaos. The plot makes no sense because it was never supposed to. Ho reportedly took abandoned Hong Kong movies, spliced them together, overdubbed new dialogue, and created a new film. The result is a fever dream filled with kung fu vampires hopping like demented Easter bunnies and a robot hero who moves like his costume was bought at a dollar store. Yet despite everything, or because of everything, the movie is unforgettable. It's a perfect storm of low-budget genius and an intentional comedy. Dogmons, 2002. Finally, Brazil's adorable attempt to ride the Pokemon Digimon wave, Dogmons. A project so shameless that its official website literally linked the Pokemon website. The premise is simple. A boy finds a portal, travels to another planet, and befriends magical dog creatures with elemental powers. The designs are Pokemon inspired. The evolutions resemble Digimon, the characters look like anime archetypes photocopied too many times. 17 episodes were planned, and only one was ever finished. Still, Dogmons has its fans. The idea of powered dogs is undeniably cute, and the project came from a place of passion rather than corporate mimicry. But ultimately, Dogmons wasn't original enough to survive in a world already filled with monster-catching giants. The Samsonadzes, 2009. It's The Simpsons, but Georgian. Few shows have been copied more than The Simpsons, so it was only a matter of time before another country tried to recreate the formula entirely. Enter The Samsonadzes, an animated sitcom from Georgia that doesn't just borrow from The Simpsons. It recreates it almost beat for beat. You've got the yellow skin, the dopey father, the overly patient wife, the fictional city. Even the opening theme is unmistakably inspired by Danny Elfman's iconic music. The only real twist is the addition of a talking parrot instead of a couch gag, which somehow makes everything feel even stranger. What makes the Samsonadzes fascinating isn't the quality. The animation and writing are painfully average. It's the confidence. The show doesn't try to hide what it's doing. It commits so hard to being a Simpsons clone that it almost crosses back into parody by accident. At a certain point, the ripoff becomes the appeal. And based from what I've searched, it's really popular in Georgia, mostly because of its political takes.
Meteory guajacebam.
What is it?
Ori meteory.
Miracle Star, 2015. The Amazing World of Gumball, but it's sponsored by Goat Milk. At first glance, Miracle Star looks like a low-budget knockoff of The Amazing World of Gumball. The character designs, the mixed media style, even the family dynamics feel eerily familiar. But what makes this one truly bizarre is why it exists. Miracle Star was created by a goat milk company as part of a long-running advertisement campaign. Yes, a dairy brand saw Gumball.
3元只做好奶粉，廖乐欣妈妈
decided that was the exact aesthetic they needed and built an entire animated series around it. And despite how ridiculous that sounds, this show actually works. Kind of. The animation is rough, the characters are meaner than their Gumball counterparts, and the tone lacks the charm of the original. But it became infamous when Gumball itself responded with a full episode roasting the knockoff.
What is going on here? What is going on here?
Turning Miracle Star into one of the few bootlegs to be canonically mocked by the show it copied. In the end, nobody got sued. The milk company got attention, and Gumball got one of its best episodes. Somehow, everybody won. Legend of Lucky Pie. Accused of copying Adventure Time but better than expected. On paper, Legend of Lucky Pie looks like an Adventure Time clone. The art style, the title cards, and even the character silhouettes feel suspiciously familiar. But once you actually watch it, the label starts to fall apart. Unlike most entries on this list, Lucky Pie isn't a corporate cash grab. It's an independent web series created by a small team with no studio backing, and it shows in the best possible way.
超美味幸运派 Goodbye, follow me. Lucky 哥这边有好吃的
The animation is ambitious, the action scenes are complex, and the storytelling leans more toward anime than Western comedy. Yes, the influences are obvious, but this isn't theft. It's admiration taken a little too far visually. And when the writing, music, and animation quality exceed expectations, it stops feeling like a ripoff and starts feeling like its own thing. Lucky Pie proves that influence doesn't automatically equal imitation. Goober and the Ghost Chasers, 1973. It's Scooby-Doo, but legally distinct. Hanna-Barbera created Scooby-Doo and then immediately tried to recreate it again. Goober and the Ghost Chasers follows a group of teenagers solving spooky mysteries with their dog companion. The similarities are impossible to ignore, except this time, the dog breaks the fourth wall, turns invisible, and occasionally talks directly to the audience.
Sheesh. What kind of man's best friend would I be if I didn't go to the rescue of my best friend?
The big difference? The chemistry. Without Scooby and Shaggy's dynamic, the show feels hollow. The mystery gang is bland, the humor is weaker, and the concept never justifies its existence beyond being Scooby-Doo again. Still, it's fascinating as an early example of a studio trying to copy itself and failing to understand what made the original work. Block 13. It's South Park without the point. Block 13 is a Middle Eastern animated series from Kuwait that openly borrows South Park's crude cut-out animation style. And while the creators described it as adapted, the resemblance goes far beyond aesthetics. The problem isn't just that it looks like South Park, it's that it strips away everything that made South Park effective. The satire is toothless, the humor is restrained, and the show avoids the very controversy that defined its inspiration. What's left is an empty shell, South Park's visual language without its bite. So it's a reminder that copying a style doesn't mean you understand why it worked. Philly Fantasia. It's My Little Pony, but make it terrifying. Philly Fantasia is a CGI animated series based on a Hong Kong toy line that looks uncannily similar to My Little Pony, and that's because it is. The character designs, the color palette, the themes, everything feels lifted directly from Hasbro's brand. But unlike My Little Pony, Philly Fantasia's low-quality CGI pushes it straight into uncanny territory.
I think he wants to come to the academy with us.
Bats! They're so gross and devious.
The animation is stiff, the expressions are unsettling, and the overall vibe feels off in ways that are hard to explain. What makes this one worse is that it's not just a show ripoff. It's a toy ripoff first, cartoon second. The series exists purely to sell knockoff merchandise, making it one of the most cynical entries on this list. Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island, 2005. And even the voice actor admitted it. Few cartoon ripoffs have been as openly disowned as Coconut Fred. The series was widely accused of copying SpongeBob SquarePants, and the accusations were later confirmed by its own lead voice actor, Rob Paulsen. Fred is loud, chaotic, reality-bending, and aggressively annoying, a collection of SpongeBob traits without the charm.
All we have to do is write a bunch of fun stories, fold them up into little wads, and then we throw them at people as hard as we can.
The animation is unsettling, the humor is grating, and the show was cancelled almost immediately. When the people who worked on the show admit it was a mistake, there's not much left to defend. Sanjay and Craig, Nickelodeon's regular show era clone. This one's debatable, but the comparison won't go away. Sanjay and Craig arrived during the peak of regular show's popularity, and the similarities are hard to ignore.
Really? Snake! Ah! Ah! That was
just old Mr. Nudeman, dude.
The slacker energy, the crude humor, the art style, and the two dudes going random nonsense. Structure feel like Nickelodeon chasing Cartoon Network's success. It's not a direct copy, but spiritually, it fits the mold. Like many shows from that era, it feels like a network trend rather than an organic idea, an attempt to replicate a vibe without understanding why audiences loved it in the first place. Yokai Watch. It's Pokemon, basically. Yokai Watch isn't a bootleg in the traditional sense, but it represents the endless recycling of the collect creatures and battle them formula.
Oh no! Why did I buy these things? These are literally the dumbest things ever invented!
Magical companions, summoning devices, merchandise-driven storytelling. It's not illegal, it's not even bad. It's just another reminder that some ideas get repackaged every generation, slightly tweaked, and sold to a new audience. And somehow, they still keep working. Handy Manny. It's Bob the Builder, but Disney. Bob the Builder defined an entire generation of preschool television. So when Handy Manny arrived in 2006, the similarities were impossible to miss. A friendly handyman, talking tools, simple problem-solving lessons. The only real difference was Manny's bilingual dialogue, which, to the show's credit, offered meaningful representation for young audiences.
Manny, do we have time to make it a table for 6?
Don't worry, Mr. Buffon, we can handle it. Okay, tools, cut off another 2-foot section.
Handy Manny isn't evil. It's not even awful, but it perfectly represents the textbook cartoon ripoff. Familiar enough to feel safe, different enough to avoid lawsuits, and packaged for a new audience. That's 1 hour. Thank you for watching. Like the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more flops.